Hey, it's me Roland, and this is Bilingual Analytics, where I help you to learn more about Microsoft Power BI. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how to use data flows within Power BI to help you to move away from those Excel imports. In this video series, I try to find the best possible data source to use, both from a performance perspective and from a business continuity point of view. I guess my t-shirt today is a little bit revealing in a sense that it reveals that I have started implementing data flows in my day job, and I'm a huge fan of that. Stay till the end to have a better understanding about why I made the decision to replace picking up data from Excel files from a server and move to data flows. So far I have covered OneDrive, Live Connect, Dataverse and SQL connections. If you haven't seen those videos, make sure to click on the top right corner and watch them as well. While I'm using data flows, maybe something else would work better in your situation. It's important to be aware of all the options you have in Power BI. If you find these videos useful, please consider clicking on the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot with the algorithm. Thanks a lot! I must be as objective as possible in these videos. To ensure objectivity, I'm going to use the exact same report, the same dataset, and the same PC to measure the different connectors. As a result of that, it could be considered an A/B testing, where the only variant is going to be the Power BI connector type. First of all, I'll measure report refresh speed using Phil C-Mark's Visualize Your Power BI Refresh report. It is a great tool to have, and Phil made it available for all of us with a tutorial on how to run it, and more importantly, how to analyze the results. Links are in the description below. Thanks, Phil. Please keep in mind that I'm going to use my dummy dataset that I created specifically for this video series, and I will use it in all demos to ensure consistency. As always, your mileage may vary, but I reckon it's a pretty good method to objectively measure refresh time at my end. Secondly, when it comes to business continuity, I'm going to focus on data availability. One of the best ways to do that is by measuring ease of access to the data from report creators' point of view. It is quite important to have clean data available so other report creators don't have to go through the same data cleansing exercise again and again and again. We all like to reuse data sets. Additionally, it is possible that people leave or switch jobs, so businesses must prepare for that option as well. If a business critical report is only available on someone's laptop, that's a huge risk and a massive no-no. And lastly, I will share my experience on how easy or difficult it is to implement the solution covered in the video. It will be a bit more challenging to objectively measure that bit, given that we all have different backgrounds and skill sets, so for this point, I'm probably only going to list pros and cons. Based on that, you can decide if you want to go ahead with a certain option or not. I think I have covered everything, so let's start by checking our baseline from an Excel import. I'm using a star or snowflake schema because I know that the most important thing to optimize when it comes to refresh times and report speed is the data model itself. When it comes to the data, I'm picking up Excel files from a network drive for the dimension tables and using a folder as a source for my fact sales table. Following Phil's blog post, I was able to trace report refresh timings for this Power BI report connected to Excel files on a network, and what you see right now on the screen is the result. Managed to refresh the report within 2 minutes and 59 seconds. My fact table and calculated calendar table taking the most time from the refresh. At this stage, it's also important to mention that I connected to a network hosted by my friend just to allow me to simulate a scenario that many of us go through in real life. I also tried to connect to data stored on my NAS, however, as it sits on my local network, I realized that it wouldn't be a true or real comparison to what's happening in real life. In most companies, data needs to go through a VPN or come from the other side of the planet from a company data warehouse. If you want to see speed that can be achieved with local files, have a look at the blog post. I added the link to the description below. Now it's time to talk about data flows. First of all, what is a data flow? Here is the official Microsoft definition. Well, yeah, it's kind of a techy way to explain this fantastic feature. But in layman terms, DataFlow helps us, report authors, to create reusable tables for reports that are going to use the same data. Think about them as dataset that you, a non-IT professional, can create using Power Query. But enough all that tech mumbo jumbo. Let's head back to my PC and create a data flow. Here we are in our Power BI workspace, called Bye Bye Excel. How funny. Let's go to the top left corner and click on New. Even here we can see data flow is for prep, clean and transform data. We have 4 options to create a data flow. Each has its benefits, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to use Define New Tables. And look at that, it's Power Query Online. To make this exercise easier, I'm going to use data stored in OneDrive. But you can use any of these connectors, just keep in mind that for some options you will need a gateway to allow data flow refresh. The list of Power Query Online connectors is constantly growing, so even if you cannot find what you are looking for right now, make sure to constantly check Power BI updates. Maybe it will show up one day. But I digress. Click on SharePoint folder and copy-paste the URL where I store my data. Just make sure that you only copy the root URL for your OneDrive folder. Now I'm just going to quickly sign in and click on Next. Click on Transform Data, and once this page loads, let's find my channel file. And look at that, just like within Power BI, I can transform my data to the shape I want. When all of it is done, let's rename the query and click on Save and Close. I call this channel Live. I already prepared my channel data flow for this video, so I don't want to name this the same. And just like that, we have created a data flow. There are 2 options from here on. We can either keep all of our tables and queries here within this data flow by adding tables at the top right corner, or we can create separate data flows for all queries. I usually like to keep everything within the same data flow. I mean the queries that logically belong together. However, in certain cases where my logic is either complex or I know that a certain table could be accessed outside of this flow, I like to separate them. We have our data flow created, so let's connect to it in Power BI Desktop. Click on Get Data and then select Power BI Data Flows. First, I need to identify the workspace, which in this case is going to be Bye Bye Excel. Then the data flow, it's the channel Live data flow. And finally, the tables I need to import. I can import multiple queries, however, under channel Live, I only have one table. Click on Transform Data. And there you go. We have the channel table imported from a Power BI data flow. There is no need to further transform the data or filter it, because we have done all of that within the data flow. Isn't that amazing? After I pointed all my queries to data flows instead of Excel files, I can just click on Close and Apply, and all relationships, measures, calculations are going to stay there, making the migration a million times easier. Essentially, we are just swapping the connectors. As a final step, I used Fill's method to trace my refresh speed, and you can see the results here. Report refresh ran within a minute, which is super impressive given that the data sits in the cloud. So Microsoft has done some amazing job optimizing this connector. Alright, so we moved our report source data to data flows, making it readily available for others within the team as well. As we saw, the relative refresh times were quicker than both Network Excel import and OneDrive import. And the most outstanding thing is that it can achieve almost the same speed as importing Excel files from my C drive. The first time I measured this refresh speed, I was absolutely bamboozled. It means that I can save quite some time while I'm refreshing my reports. While I cannot guarantee that you will see the same refresh speed improvements, I'm fairly confident that if you are accessing Excel reports from a shared network drive behind a VPN or trying to access files across the other side of the planet, you will experience significant improvements. All in all, moving my reports in my day job to DataFlow resulted in an even better performance than what I show you today. Now that we have covered the report refresh times, it's time to talk about business continuity and data availability. As soon as we move local files to the cloud, it improves both of that. With that small step, we can make data more accessible for the organization. And it's not just any data. We are talking about clean data for others. Therefore, we can limit the number of times users have to reinvent the wheel. Additionally, DataFlow can handle large volume of data, compared to some other connector types that we have discovered so far. One of the most important benefits when it comes to DataFlow is the fact that it helps organizations to remove data silos by allowing people to reuse datasets. Just imagine you can allow some business users to use the underlying data to create their own reports, and you don't have to spend hours validating every single report that they create. You can also set up auto exports from the database or systems you have and auto refreshes for the queries in DataFlow, either with or without gateways. Those data flows could house multiple queries or tables, or in case the logic is getting too complex, just create multiple data flows. It's so flexible and powerful. And there are much more to this. But the best thing is, we have full control over what's created. You don't have to wait for IT to create or adjust a view in SQL or set up access to certain data sources. Whatever access to the raw data you have right now can be used in DataFlow. My final setup is going to look something like this. Direct access data exported to OneDrive automatically. Data received via emails pushed to OneDrive using automated flows and DataFlow scheduled refreshes at the end of the day. Additionally, because all of this is in the cloud, I can run refreshes straight from the service. There is no need to refresh the model from Power BI Desktop. I think it is a great advantage as the report is no longer tied to local resources, and you can even refresh the report from any place, anytime, even without a gateway. And finally, let's talk about ease of migration. Let's be honest here. If you are creating Power BI reports, you already know how to use Power Query. You may not be an expert, but at least know how to use it. And because DataFlow is utilizing Power Query Online, it is super easy to replicate whatever we have in Power BI Desktop. As I mentioned, Power Query Online may not have all the connectors that you would find in Desktop, but the list is constantly growing, and I believe sooner or later those two are going to be on par. So what are you waiting for? Let's give DataFlow a try, and I'm sure that you won't regret it. With this video out, I think I have covered the most important data sources or connector types that you can use in Power BI. Of course, there are heaps more and the list is growing day by day, but the rest are probably more tied to a specific third-party app like Salesforce.com connectors. Be sure to comment below if you feel I missed any major Power BI data connector. I also like to learn new things, so I might add more to this series later down the track. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope that all of it made sense and you learned something new today. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button on your way out or before you watch any of the above tutorials. Until the next one, see ya!